New York Knicks fired their head coach, Tom Thibodeau. I personally wouldn't fire the coach that led its team to its best run in a quarter century and helped create a culture that the fan base is proud of, but that's just me.
Comes in, establishes a culture, and now you get rid of him. All the foundational work is just thrown away.
Here's the other thing. A lot of times these coaches, when they get fired, they end up being on TV. Thibodeau was previously on TV.
I mean, of course I'm taking the Greek freak.
Me too.
You never know. You never know Jeff Green's good.
We can't have this. He needs to be coaching and not exposed on live TV. The big question is, who is going to be the new head coach of the New York Knicks? I want every bit of the smoke in NYC. Queens bred. Dominated my high school era. I just wonder if you're talking about like your high school accomplishment is the best way to get the most coveted sport coach position right now in the world. Hey, Mike, how you doing? You have now today a little bit of a more crispy, regular white shirt.
Yes. Yes.
Tell me about your shirt.
This is a classic Hanes white tee. It's from one of those bags at Target.
Okay.
That you get, and it was on sale, I believe. Cool little fun fact about this shirt is I've been wearing it for about 3 days. There's a smell, but luckily our viewers can't see the smell or smell the smell.
Could we do
see that it looks clean?
Could we do just a quick little armpit check?
No.
No? Oh, it's actually
not bad at all.
Wow.
I know.
It's actually not that bad. That's why I wear a dark shirt most of the time, but I do have a little bit of a stain here.
Yeah. How many people do you think have clicked off this video from the first 30 seconds of the?
I would say most users or most people who have any sort of self-respect have clicked off at this point. So now all the people that remain have no self-respect, and they're going to listen to us chit-chat. That's what we like to do. I do want to give a little shout out to this tattoo that I have on my forearm. If you see it, it is from Moana. Can you see it?
I see it. It's beautiful.
Yeah. It's from a 3-year-old's birthday party, which was on Sunday, and the tattoo has stayed on. It says nothing about my bathing techniques, but I just kind of I just kind of like the vibe on it. Okay,
Mike, not about soap.
Well, Mike, I just like to shower with lukewarm water, and that's it. Soap is outdated. Okay. Big news coming out of your favorite sports league, Mike. The National Basketball Association.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, here we go. I know you love it. I know you love basketball. New York Knicks have fired their head coach, Tom Thibodeau, home of the Dimsdale Thibodeau.
That's his name? That's no way. Does he have a 20-foot tall top hat that he wears?
That's the only thing I can think of is when I hear his name is Doug Dimmadome, home of the Dimsdale Thibodeau.
That's crazy.
So Tom Thibodeau, home of the Dimsdale Thibodeau. All right. So here's why this is surprising, Mike. Okay. The New York Knicks had their best season or best run of seasons in the last 25 years. Look at this little beautiful graphic with the green X emojis. That's how you know it's really, really good because it's organized well. Before Tibbs, we call him Tibbs. The New York Knicks had no culture. They were winning 30% of their games in the last 6 years, the worst in the NBA. They hadn't made the playoffs in 7 years. And then I think it was 2020 when he came to the New York Knicks. He established a culture. They're winning over half of their games. They're 8th in the NBA in win percentage in these last 5 years. They've made the playoffs 4 to 5 times, and they just made the Eastern Conference Finals. Okay, they're playing against the Indiana Pacers. They had a very, very productive season. One of the top 4 teams in the NBA. And the New York Knicks, despite all of this, decided to fire him. Okay, and well, just off the bat, just before
why
some other give me your thoughts on the guy who's had this kind of success and they fire him.
That's wild. Comes in, establishes a culture, and how many years was he there?
5.
5 years.
Okay,
that's not a crazy amount of time for a turnaround. And as he's on the rise, and as the foundation that he's laid of changing the culture and like starting to finally see the results of that, now you get rid of him, like. All the foundational work is just thrown away.
Right.
You know, it's like bamboo. Bamboo, plant the seed, you water. You don't see anything. And then all of a sudden it all sprouts out. That's his coaching style. And they're ridding him of right on the exponential curve part.
Let the bamboo grow freely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay.
That's wild.
some people agree with you of right here, you with your bamboo argument. So here's kind of what some people are saying. Okay. I personally wouldn't fire the coach that led its team to its best run in a quarter century and helped create a culture that the fan base is proud of. But that's just me. Okay. A little bit of sarcasm in that one. Well,
Sarcasm.
I think, okay, think about this. Think about how much we've talked kind of about the Knicks. Mostly every time we talk about the Knicks, it goes to Timothy Chalamet, but
as it should.
as it should. But that kind of speaks actually to the culture that he established. Like the New York City has been really, really excited about the Knicks. Like they've just been so terrible. Now we see all these celebrities back at Knicks games on courtside, traveling around the country. Okay. So I think it's kind of easy to jump on and say, okay, that's why are they doing that? However, other people think that this actually was a necessary move. So this tweet says, a new voice was necessary. Tibbs had a great run, but his unwillingness to expand the bench held this team back. Rookies barely saw the floor, and the roster was never fully maximized. The move was justified. Okay, so okay, what? Okay, what?
Here's the thing. Any coach ever, where they're at, you can pick apart like little things that they're doing wrong and be like, see, they should get rid of them because of this one thing.
Sure.
Like no coach is going to do everything perfect exactly how especially a fan thinks it should be operating. But like this seems like a nitpicky thing to pull about. Oh, the bench wasn't expanded all the way. Okay, yeah, but look at the actual progression of the team. This is just somebody like that kind of argument is just a little silly.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, I think that's well, yeah, you're right. Like you can pick apart like Andy Reid of the Chiefs. And,
yeah, exactly.
you know, he's so dependent on Patrick Mahomes. We got to get a new coach who's not so dependent on Patrick Mahomes. So that's a good argument right there. However, let me just play devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
Hate when people say that.
I know. Yeah. Let me take the side of Satan real quick.
Let me take
what? There's got to be a better name for playing devil's advocate.
What else can we call the phrase of?
Can you just say, let's play the other side instead
how
of
about this?
You know, we don't have to drag Satan and everything.
Yeah, and who's to even say that this would be Satan's perspective?
Yeah,
you know, the audacity to think that I know of the evil entity, what he would.
How do you know what Satan's argument would be, or what team he's rooting for in the NBA? So I think,
frankly,
a great point.
It's a little concerning if a person says that and claims to have this authority.
That's really
that close to Satan. Okay. What was I going to say? Oh yeah. Okay. To play devil's advocate, the two teams that are in the NBA Finals, the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers, these teams have sort of what we like to call in the NBA a deep bench. Okay. So they're able to play with like 9-10 guys who can actually contribute on the floor, and it's not like a huge drop off. And you take the Indiana Pacers, for example, they got like 10 guys that can play, and they play really, really fast. We talked about on the show how if they score above 120 points, they're going to win. If they score below, they're going to lose. But you can't play this super fast paced game the whole time if you only have like 7 guys in your rotation that you are able to trust on the floor. And this is sort of the criticism of Tom Thibodeau, home of the Dibsdale Thibodeau. There's no way I can ever say his name without saying that.
I know.
It's part of it. So there's that, Mike, and sort of the way that the NBA is sort of adapting. So with this new knowledge that I have just granted you, do you think that's kind of fair? Do you think it's still a little bit too extreme?
I mean, the argument has a little bit more grounds for, support, but it's not, that doesn't make it a fully good argument and reason to fire somebody. Okay. It's like that's just further evidence to why you said what you said. It doesn't mean, it doesn't go, oh yeah, no, you should have fired him. Wrong. But it at least maps out the thinking.
Okay. Yeah. So then you can see sort of a little bit of the argument on that side. Okay.
Do you think they should have fired him? You think they should have kept him?
That's a great question, Mike. That's a really good question. And I'm glad you asked it. Here's my thinking. I don't know. That's my answer. No, but I'm a professional sports analyst. I don't know. Here, listen to this though. Listen to this argument. You remember the last episode I had like the Mr. Incredibles call? And I had a couple of great ones. All right. So you remember, Peter Thiel, right? Yeah. And he wrote that book 0 to 1, which he personally handed me a copy in 2012 when he spoke at Georgetown. Me and Peter Thiel. Wow. 0 to 1. And for those who are not as business minded as us here on this podcast, going from 0 to 1 means like getting an organization from nothing to something. So like 0 to 1. It's like if you're starting a company, getting it from not existing to, okay, now we're a company and we have some customers. But getting from 0 to 1 is different from getting from 1 to 10. Okay. And so, for example, Twitter, Jack Dorsey, he started Twitter and he got it from 0 to 1. And he was really, really good at kind of getting something off the ground. But he wasn't a great CEO for getting them from 1 to 10 or 1 to 50. He wasn't really good at the scaling and sort of the next level stuff. And so they had to bring in a new CEO, and then Twitter has kind of taken off since then. I'm thinking maybe is Tom Thibodeau the right guy? Like he's a startup CEO to get it off the ground, but then once it becomes a mature company, okay, you need the guy Jeff Nichols, who was the CEO of Taco Bell and then Chipotle and now Starbucks, an experienced guy who's proven at that level at a mature company to come in and take it to the next level. What are your thoughts on my genius analysis right there?
Number one, what an analogy.
I was thinking about that.
Okay. Business and like startup and company growth trajectory analogies should be applied to sports more often.
Yes.
I think there are a lot of good parallels. That's
Thank you.
fascinating. But interesting. I do think there are some key differences in building a sports program and culture versus a business.
Okay.
I'm not sure what they are. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, let me think. Like, I think within a team and a coach, like the relationship between the coaches and the players and amongst each other, I think the relationships within a team performance may be more crucial to production than in a business setting. Right. And I think that's a factor that should be played into. And I don't think that you can just be like, okay, I'm going to put this coach in. He's going to set the culture. Okay. Now I'm going to take him out and that culture is going to stay. And I'm going to grab a different coach and plug him in. And he's just going to go. He's not going to want to implement his own culture. Right. He's just going to go, oh, his culture was better. You guys remember all the stuff he said. And then remember the stuff I say about this.
True.
Like, I think you can kind of do that maybe in business. Like somebody comes in, implements systems. Right. Where you put in systems and you can interchange people who run the systems for business. Right. I don't think you can do that as seamlessly in sports.
I think that's a really good point because also, and I'm stuck on this Chipotle thing because I have Chipotle for dinner like 3 times a week, 4 times sometimes. Chicken bowl, no beans, white rice, double chicken. And so they brought in that new CEO.
Okay.
And, the day-to-day employees of Chipotle, they're not interacting with him. It's just what you said. They are now just operating under the systems that he's set in place.
Yeah.
And so I think that actually that's kind of a good pushback to play devil's advocate against my argument.
So you're playing devil's advocate. I'll play God's advocate. How about that?
Okay. You're on the side of the Lord Almighty.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good for you. How am I going to argue against this? So that's a good point because then also even if you look at the New York Knicks, Jalen Brunson, one of their best players, he had a great relationship with Thibodeau. He was outspoken about Thibodeau being the right guy. Like a reporter asked him after they lost the series and were knocked out, well, do you think Thibodeau's the right guy? And he basically laughs like, are you kidding me? Yes, of course, he's the right guy. We have a great thing going here. Look at our trajectory. So I think that's a good point that kind of the relationship with the coach. Also with basketball, there's 12 guys on the team. You got a pretty personal relationship with the coach. And okay, that's good because the employees.
That's good. I think that's more key in basketball than it is in football because of how small the unit is.
True.
That's why I think it's harder to not have pieces of being a player coach in basketball than it is in football because there's such a higher degree of separation between the head football coach and the players of the team because you have so many coordinators and guys who are interacting before you get to the head coach.
True.
Versus basketball. It's all direct it's more of a flat structure.
It's true because also think about it, a football coach has such an authority, you call the plays and everybody just moves the chess pieces as the coach.
Yeah.
And I oftentimes wonder, how much authority really, I know at practice, but within a game for some of these sports that are kind of just nonstop, like basketball and hockey and especially soccer.
Yeah.
What the hell is a soccer coach doing during the game that is really making a difference?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So But you've heard me talk about how individuals should never have an allegiance to an organization because organizations don't have allegiances to individuals. And I think that this is a great
Bingo.
example. What else could Tom Thibodeau, home of the Dimsdale Dimsdale, do? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I cannot. I'm gonna
Out of my control.
I have literally no control over that. What else could he do aside from winning the NBA or getting to the finals and winning it for the New York Knicks fan base and organization to have some allegiance to him? Like he did a tremendous job, and yet still he gets no allegiance. This is why I harp on this so much, because like you and I have been involved with organizations.
Yeah.
Done a pretty good job for years and years and years with the organization, and all of a sudden, boom, they'll just cut you. You're nothing. You're nothing.
Tell me about it. Oregon State, are you listening?
Are you listening?
They never return my calls.
It's very sad.
Okay. Here's something about how quickly organizations get off of coaches. Okay. Versus in companies, how quickly a board of directors gets rid of a CEO and go, you're not working.
Ooh.
Like, do they the similar amount of time to show results? I think it's almost more cutthroat to be a coach in a professional league than it is to be a CEO of a company in certain ways, because you're like the fan base,
right?
And that impact can really impact your job more so than just actually, I don't know. But
no. I think
there's something there.
There's something there. Because think about this. Okay. The decision makers, the owners, the people who have to decide who the coach is with the sports franchise, they are getting inputs from the fan base all the time. And as much as they would like to say, oh, we don't really listen to the fans, about they feel that pressure. They do, because the fans buy tickets, the fans watch the game, the fans buy merch. They are to some level beholden to the fan. Whereas I'm still going to go to Chipotle even if the financials aren't there.
Yeah.
And also, like, the people making the decisions for who the CEO of Chipotle is, these are all business people. They're not fans of Chipotle chirping like, we need a new CEO. They can have a longer time horizon and understand, okay, we lost X amount of money this year, but we lost less the following year.
Yeah.
And so basically what I'm saying is fans are dumb, but sports franchises listen to them because they feel the pressure.
Yeah.
The boards of companies don't have to listen to fans, and so they can make more informed decisions and give their leaders longer runways. What do you think?
I think that's a fantastic. And here's what's great about this podcast is I can start a sentence and really not know where it's going. And then you can grab it and then explain it to the masses in kind of sort of translate what I was trying to say.
I am a Mikey Alfieri translator. I get your fragmented thoughts. And I regurgitate them into human language.
Yeah.
Which is something that we okay.
This is a fascinating conversation. This about the companies versus coaches. Like actually we could talk a lot about that.
Who else has taken this angle on the firing of Tom Thibodeau? No one. Here's the other thing about Tom Thibodeau. We have to hope that he does get hired by a new team, because a lot of times these coaches, when they get fired, they end up being on TV. Okay. And so when they go on TV, we get exposed to them. Thibodeau was previously on TV. All right. He was previously on TV. And this is how he behaves on TV. I'm going to point him out to you. We can't have this. Okay. He needs to be coaching and not exposed on live TV. He's the guy here sitting third to the right. He doesn't even say anything in this clip, but he's just weird vibes. Here it is.
Versus the Greek Freak, the combination of points, rebounds, and assists. Who you got?
I mean, of course I'm taking the Greek Freak.
Me too.
Did you
You
get
never
two
know.
players?
You never know what Jeff Green's going to do. He's either going to have a triple double or he's going to have zeros.
All right.
Sounds like a lot of guys in wagers.
I'm going with the Wizards. They got a lot of bad news going on over there. I'm going to take them.
Okay.
Hornets and Mavericks. Kemba Walker versus Luka Doncic. Points, rebounds, assists.
I mean,
get him off the air.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's very off-putting.
Maybe that's why they fired him. Maybe he was staring off at practice like this, and it was just making everybody uncomfortable. I mean, that is a very, very bad TV presence, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Image is a very important part of these high-profile positions, like a head coach. And that is not a great image. I'm sure, maybe he was deep in thought. But even when you're deep in thought, you could at least close your mouth.
Don't smile like that. It's staring. Weird. Also, like, look at least at the people who are talking and act like you've been in a human conversation.
Yeah. So Do you think this is a reflection of his coaching ability and kind of supports the case of getting rid of him? Is what you're saying?
Now I'm for firing him because, gosh, that's weird. No, I think that there are coaches. I think some people are just bad on TV and they just don't belong on TV. And he seems to be one of them. And that just, I mean, that makes me very uncomfortable. Okay. So we've got that. I did want to. So now the whole drama, the big question is who is going to be the new head coach of the New York Knicks? It's probably the most desirable sports opening or coaching opening in all of sports right now.
Yeah.
Big market. They've established a culture. The fan base is re-engaged. They just made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. They got some good players. Excuse me. And so it's a very desirable coaching position. And we're seeing a lot of rumors of like, oh, who's going to be the next coach? Is he going to be Dan Hurley from UConn? Who loves to remember him, Dan Hurley, the bald guy with the glasses who throws all the tantrums. He flops.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Maybe
tantrum thrower. Okay.
But I just want to get your take on somebody basically vying for the job on Twitter. So Meta World Peace, aka Ron Artest, he's basically putting his application out there that he wants to coach for the Knicks. And I just don't know if this is the best way to go about trying to get a job. I want every bit of the smoke in NYC. I'm 100% in and ready to head coach the great New York Knicks. Queens bred, dominated my high school era. 3 championships at Rucker, never lost one at Rucker. 3 championships
high school
real at Gershon. There was no security. Lots more on the NYC front. Had a Nick practice shorts on at the 1999 draft. NBA accolades speak for themselves. Meta is ready for the city. And so I just wonder if you're talking about like your high school accomplishment is the best way to try and get the most coveted sport coach position right now in the world. What's your take on this attempt? Ooh, pick me.
He could have at least put some more effort into the grammar. If this is your official application, and as the lowest you'll stoop is the tweet to apply for the job, and this is a job you really want, and the most amount of effort you'll put into it is a tweet thrown out. And I think he could have just organized it a little bit better. But he does make some compelling arguments. With you wore the shorts at the draft. That's a good point. This is just really funny. What a funny thing to do. Unless he's serious, of course.
I think he's serious. I mean, we got to remember, this is the guy that like went up into the stands in the Malice in the Palace and was like punching fans in the face.
That's right.
Judgment of reality.
Yeah.
Different than ours, probably.
This is the bad thing. People who made it to professional sports, okay, and they've never had to get a job or go through like a hiring process in like the real world because they've had sports the whole time.
Yeah.
And now he probably legitimately thinks this is how you submit a resume for a job because he's never had to do it before.
Yeah. Do you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of on LinkedIn when people have that little thing open to work on their profile pictures, which is like the most off-putting, desperate thing ever. I think that anybody who puts that on their LinkedIn profile picture is like, you're not going to get any interviews or any jobs because you're reeking of desperation.
Yeah.
And even our brother Anthony, he's a recruiter for organizations. And he talks about how like, if you show this desperation, you got to play hard to get. Okay. Yeah. And this is not how you become the head coach of the New York Knicks. I don't think he would be a good fit despite him wearing the shorts and despite him growing up in Queens. Do you think I should be the head coach of Oregon State football because I grew up in Oregon?
I think there's some merit to that. I think you actually have some good ties, and I think you get a meeting. I think you get a first interview.
All right, thank you for saying that. Okay, well, I want to go back because the firing, Thibodeau was probably taken off guard. Maybe I know there were rumors about this, but I think he probably feels like, oh, I did a great thing for this organization, and then they fired me.
Yeah.
And I wanted to tell the story about the time that I got fired. Have you ever been fired, Mike?
I have been fired. Yes, I have. And
would you like to share?
I would. You want me to go first? Because I'm very curious to hear your story because
okay.
You actually
tell my story. All right, you want to hear my story? Okay. I was working for a football team in the last few years in the European League of Football. I was doing video and media content for them. And the team had to let some people go. Okay. And I had to get on a Zoom call with the owner and the CFO of the team, or the CEO and the CFO of the team. And they got me on there and we started talking about a media project they were working on. In the middle of it, they said, by the way, we just have to let you know that we had to let so-and-so go. This was another person that I was working with in the media department. And they said, hey, yeah, we just had to let you know we had to let them go, just sort of downsizing a little bit. And so we just wanted you to know that. I said, oh, wow. Okay. Good to know. And then they went on and continued to talk about the project that I was working on and all the things to do and the deliverables and everything like that. And then they got all this info. And then at the end, they said, by the way, we're also going to have to let you go. I always equate this to Michael Scott when he returned to Dunder Mifflin after having the Michael Scott Paper Company.
Yeah.
And he brings Pam in. And he tells Pam, and there's only one sales job for either Pam or Ryan. And he tells Pam, I'm so sorry, Pam. We had to give the sales job to Ryan. And Pam is, of course, very, very sad. And then Michael Scott goes, oh, just kidding. You actually got the job. And then Pam, of course, is really, really happy. And then Michael Scott says, wow, I'm so glad that you liked that joke, because when I told Ryan that he did get the job and then told him afterward that he actually didn't, he didn't think that was as funny. And so the person firing me essentially used the exact same Michael Scott technique of firing. And, it's a little bit different than the Thibodeau situation. I didn't get them to the Eastern Conference Finals, but I made some damn good videos for that organization.
Yeah.
And so I just think, firing can be, it depends on
it's an art.
It's an
art to fire. And you were fired. What a horrible way. And how did that make you feel? What did you say to that in response when they displayed the information that way?
Okay. Well, okay. I kind of laughed about it because I thought it was so funny. It was so ridiculous and so funny. And it was the worst example of like human communication or talking about a difficult subject that I've ever seen. And I don't know if he did it on purpose or he was just he was procrastinating with the hard part of the conversation.
Yeah. That's funny. Let me just put the hard part off. Let's talk about the project some more.
Let's talk about other stuff. Oh, by the way, you're fired. I got to go.
Yeah.
And so I hope that didn't happen to Thibodeau. Did you, and what about you? You ever got fired?
Yeah, I got fired. What a great Michael Scott analogy. That's
a
so
good one.
Funny.
Isn't it?
Okay. I was fired. So before I went to college, I was working construction during the week, but I also had a job on the weekends working at the Villa Sport Athletic Club, because if you work there, you got a free membership, and they had a very expensive membership. I just wanted the free membership. So I would try to get my schedule down to where I only had to work 1 7-hour shift a week, which is the minimum you need to work to keep the membership. And during this time, I would hide in the bathroom and eat sandwiches and stuff during my shift because they were so overstaffed. All I had to do was fold towels, but there were like no towels ever fold. So I was always hiding. And now on top of this, I really took advantage of the membership. So I would always sneak my friends in through the back door because I had the code. And I got caught sneaking in my friends multiple times in the back door. And the guy who was the manager of the towel department, which is where I was pulled me in for a conversation saying that we're going to have a serious conversation about whether or not you can keep working here because we have video of you sneaking people into the club. And the next day when we were supposed to have a conversation, he actually got fired. And I show up and I go, where is this guy? And it was like, they fired him. I think his name was Greg, because he was like this creepy old guy. And I guess he was like, keeping out some of the younger employees, and they reported him, and they got rid of him. So I dodged a big bullet there.
Wow. Did you get Greg fired before you could fire you? What?
No, I should have. That should have been my plan. It was just a complete luck of the draw. And, and then I kept sneaking my friends in from then on out.
Wow. 7 hours a week for the membership. What were you making an hour? Like $15, $10?
$11.25, I think.
Okay, so your membership was the equivalent of, you got basically with that math then, because I think I'm going there in about 30 minutes after we finish this podcast. I'm going to go to Villa.
You don't say.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have an authentic membership. I'm not so $77 basically got you a membership. $77 of labor, which is essentially half off the membership price. So it's good. So that's both of us getting fired or let go. Us and Tom Thibodeau. And there we have it. So the lesson is never show allegiance to an organization, right?
Yeah.
That's my motto.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Thibodeau. And we will see the last thing. Oh gosh. I wonder what Timothy Chalamet thinks about the Knicks firing their head coach, because that's actually really what I care about.
Yeah. He probably would have a great analysis.
He would.
And like legitimate thought out analysis of this.
We should get him on the show. Hey, Timmy. Okay. Last thing. So this is mostly just talking about this episode is talking about Thibodeau because that's breaking news. But I did want to throw this up of Scottie Scheffler because it's cool. Talking about golf, obviously he had this really, really great month of May. We said on the last episode, he's made $10 million this month within 4 tournaments, winning, I think, 2 or 3 of them. Remember he picked up his baby the other day and his baby
That's right.
on his back. And then he was this was a really, really good answer he gave. Make this a little bit smaller. Hold on. Command minus. Damn it. I messed up. Hold on. Command minus. Command minus. Can you see that? Can you see full screen? Okay.
Perfect.
All right. So I think somebody asked him about the difficulty of golf. Let's check this out, and then I want to get your thoughts on it. We just have a couple more minutes on this, okay?
Okay.
I feel like golf sometimes it's not a game where it's not like other sports where like if we were playing football or basketball, like I compared to basketball, like if I get the ball at the 3-point line in basketball, I can figure out a way to force my way to get there to the hoop and try and put up a layup. Like I can figure out a way to either back the guy down or go around him. You can use brute force. In golf, you can't do that. I mean, you can will yourself to hit and execute the right way, but you can't force the ball to go into the hole. I think a lot of times you got to let these rounds come to you, and I feel like I've improved at that skill over time. And golf's not a game where you can just use that brute force. You have to be patient. You have to. I mean, it tests you each and every time you go out and play. I mean, it's really like you're looking in the mirror each and every time you go out and play golf. It's as challenging mentally as it is physically.
So I think like we probably knew that subconsciously or like know that, but it's interesting to hear that said out loud because like think about like in football. If you get really, really pissed off and mad and angry, you can actually use that and just go super hard. Like I can be like, oh, I'm gonna just truck this offensive lineman and go make the tackle, and like you have this overwhelming emotional surge of anger, and it actually benefits you. But in golf, you have to suppress that, or you have to convert that into some other thing. What are your thoughts on thinking about golf like this?
This is why I had to give up golf because I'm not somebody who can control my emotions. I need to let them fly. That's why I love football so much. And running back is such a great position because you don't have to really control any of your emotions. You can kind of just the madder you get, the better you do, which was great. But that's what the beauty of golf is that, like, again, it's not like you're competing against the other golfers, but it's you versus the game, and it's about balancing that. It's more like surfing. It's like you have to manage the emotions of the game, and you can't just brute force. Like there's a balance of pushing and letting it come. Yeah. That's very zen of golf. And that's why I think more athletes like basketball and football, I think they get so much out of playing golf because they learn how to kind of balance that where it's needed that they don't in their native sport.
That's a good point. I was thinking of like the most mentally tough guy, athlete that we've ever seen. Michael Jordan is like obsessed with golf and great at golf. He's able to master the mental side of things. Oh, okay. So you would say, let's say golf, you have to be almost the most emotionally mature to play. What position in sports can you be the most emotionally immature?
Oh, what a great question
to play. Because like you just said running back kind of because you can like, I don't like wrestling. I don't know. You still have to have, I think, because you have to know you can't be too overly aggressive. Sometimes.
Yeah, because there's a lot of technique of wrestling and you can get overpowered by somebody who has right technique. Okay. Maybe D end.
True.
Because you can just like your responsibility is just contain for the most part. Like, okay, just contain and then do whatever I want. You can just contain and get ball. And so like you can really just let loose. Linebacker a little bit, but I feel like there's way more responsibility and you have to know stuff.
Yeah, it depends. Like if sometimes teams they have like a really dumb linebacker who's just incredibly gifted physically, and it's like, hey, everyone on defense has a responsibility, but you just free reign, free flow, which I don't think happens so much like in the really high professional levels, but like that happens in like some of the lower levels of football, some of these German football league type things. And I think there you can be really emotionally immature.
What do you think about corner?
Oof.
It's a different type of
question.
Uncapped emotion because it's like it's within the confines of
but you still have to like have the emotional maturity to, depending on what defense you're into, like not jumping out to be like, oh, I'm not gonna just go hit.
That's good. Okay.
Not corner. Kind of elements of basketball. Playing defense in basketball.
Yeah, defensive basketball.
It all comes back to defensive basketball. The
thing about the whole ball technique is that it works. It's the most annoying thing ever. They should implement that. More coaches should implement that in the NBA.
Biff,
stuff like that.
Brick. It is so annoying, and you don't have to have any emotional maturity. Like we say all the time on the show, you just have to try hard, and you don't have to have any emotional maturity really to try hard. Maybe for sustained periods of time. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. But golf is definitely you have to have the most emotional maturity, and then maybe like quarterback, pitcher. What about like what other sports are there? Something in hockey,
lacrosse, goalie, hockey, goalie. You have to be psychotic.
Yeah, true. Because it's not so much strategy there. You just stop the ball. It's like, okay. All right, let's go with one of those. Some sort of goalie where you have to be an absolute psycho just to let those balls come at you at 150 miles per hour. Or pucks. All right. Whatever.
The all-inclusive term, pucks.
This is a very inclusive show of all sorts of ball sports and everything. All right, there we have it. Tom Thibodeau, home of the Dimsdale Dimmadome, fired from the New York Knicks. Nick Alfieri and Mikey Alfieri fired or almost fired from our respective jobs. And we've got the NBA Finals coming up. So
hopefully not this one.
Good show, Mike. That was a good show.
That was good. There were some good conversations in there.
I think that these viewers, you should be writing down the notes of what we were talking about during that business segment. That was some genius sports takes.
That was actually really fascinating. We should do more like that.
We should do more. Okay, everybody, thank you for watching, and we will see you on the next one.